How to pass a DUI driving test. Many first-time callers to my office will tell us, I passed my DUI tests and the officer still arrested me. So, is there a way to pass your DUI driving test? The simple answer is yes, don't drink and drive. But since you're watching this video, that advice is probably too late for you. The best way to pass your roadside DUI tests is to not take them at all. There is only one test that you must take pursuant to the law. I will talk about that at the end of this video. When you're pulled over by a police officer, or involved in a crash after drinking, and the officer comes to speak with you about it, you have the right not to answer their questions. You do need to identify yourself with your driver's license, proof of insurance, and registration on the vehicle. You do not have to answer questions about whether you have been drinking, or how much you have had to drink, or whether you have taken any prescription drugs. You don't even have to answer the question of whether you were driving the vehicle. Most people don't understand that you should not answer every question that the police officer asks. Instead, once you have given the officer your name, and your driver's license, insurance, and car registration, you don't have to answer any other questions. You cannot talk your way out of a DUI investigation, so it is best not to try. Winning your DUI case. I'm often asked whether a client will win their DUI case because the cops did not read the client their Miranda rights, and the answer is unfortunately, no, in most cases. The questions that the police ask you at the roadside when you have been involved in a crash, or when you have been drinking and driving, are designed to be used against you later in court to prosecute you for DUI. Each question has a purpose that is specifically designed to eliminate one of your possible defenses to the DUI charges. Therefore, each answer that you give will bring you closer to a DUI conviction. Almost every DUI case starts the same. Either your car is stopped for a moving violation, or an officer arrives after a car crash. If the officer smells alcohol on your breath, or observes signs that you may be impaired by alcohol or drugs, the officer will ask you to step out of your car. You must get out of your car when the police officer has asked you to do so. If you don't get out of your car when you are asked by the police, they can arrest you for delaying a peace officer, which is an additional crime in California. But once you're out of the car, you should not perform any of their tests, except for one that I will tell you about the end of this video. Those roadside tests have only one purpose, to convict you of a DUI. Let me explain how the tests are designed to work to convict you. The most common first roadside test is a check of your eyes. The officer will hold a pen or finger in front of your face and move it from side to side. This test is called HGN or horizontal gaze nystagmus. The officer is looking for an involuntary bounce of your eyes that is caused by the consumption of alcohol. If you do what the officer says and follow the pen or finger, you will give the officer additional information that may lead to your arrest. Instead, you should politely tell the officer, I respectfully decline to participate in your test. The second roadside test is often the one leg raised test. You will be asked to raise 1 foot off of the ground about 6 inches and count 1001 to 1030. The officer is looking that you don't wiggle or sway, and that you don't put your foot down on the ground, or raise your arms to help you balance. The officer is also looking to see if you correctly count from 1 to 30 as instructed. The common joke is, I cannot do that when I am sober, how can I do it now? Again, your response to the officer should be, I respectfully decline to participate in this test. The third roadside test is the so-called walk and turn test. You will typically be asked to walk 9 steps forward heel to toe, and turn around and walk 9 steps back, heel to toe. The officer is looking to see whether each step is on the so-called line, and also looking to see whether each heel touches each toe. Additionally, the officer is looking to see if you raised your arms for balance, or did anything else to show your lack of general coordination. I have seen many officers perform this test in court for a jury, and fail to perform the test correctly. Hopefully those officers were sober in court. This test is just too hard to complete successfully. The third very common test is the walk and turn test, or the heel to toe test. In the thousands of DUI cases that I have reviewed, I have seen many officers explain the test differently, especially in how they instruct the suspect to turn around and walk back. As I stated before, your response should simply be, I respectfully decline to participate in this test. After the balance and physical tests have been completed, many officers now carry preliminary alcohol screening devices in their cars. These tests can be administered before your arrest and after your arrest. The only difference between the devices that are used before your arrest and after your arrest is that the second type of test can print out the results page. Let me be 100% clear, you do not have to take the preliminary screening test before you are arrested. But you absolutely must take the chemical test after you are arrested. So again, when asked before your arrest to take any test including a breath test, you should say, "I respectfully decline to participate in that test, officer." However, eventually, assuming that the officer has enough information, he or she will place you under arrest for DUI. Once you are under arrest pursuant to California law, you absolutely must provide either a blood or breath sample to determine the alcohol content in your body at the time of your arrest. Which test should you take, blood or breath? The answer depends upon how long it has been since you stopped drinking alcohol. In the human body, it takes anywhere from 30 minutes to 90 minutes for your peak blood alcohol level to be reached. If you have not eaten before drinking, the peak time is shorter than if you have eaten before or during your consumption of alcohol. So if you stopped drinking very close in time to your contact with the police, you should provide a breath sample. This is because your body is still digesting the alcohol that you have consumed and your blood alcohol level is still rising. The sooner you take the breath test, the more likely it will be that your peak blood alcohol level has not yet been reached. However, if more than 45 minutes have passed since you stopped drinking alcohol, you should instead choose the blood test. Your peak blood alcohol level has likely been reached, and as the passage of time moves on, your blood alcohol level will decline. So the time that it takes for you to be driven to the hospital for a blood test will give your body more time to eliminate the alcohol in your bloodstream. Hopefully, your ultimate blood alcohol level will be below the legal limit by the time you arrive at the hospital. To wrap this all up, remember the best way to pass your DUI test and avoid being arrested is to not drive after drinking. You can call an Uber, a taxi, or a friend, or designate a sober driver before the evening begins. The second best way to pass your DUI roadside test is to not take the preliminary tests at all. You cannot fail a test that you do not take. But I must warn you, once you are under arrest you absolutely must take either a breath or a blood test as it is required by California law. If you don't take a breath or blood test after you are under arrest, the Department of Motor Vehicles will take your license for at least 1 year with no exceptions. If you have had a prior DUI arrest, then the suspension period goes up to 2, 3, or even 4 years that you can't drive if you fail to give a sample of your breath or blood. If you have been arrested for a DUI, and you don't want to have the arrest ruin the rest of your life, give us a call. Since 1993, I have handled literally thousands of cases as both a senior deputy district attorney and as your defense attorney in these cases. If you need assistance with a DUI case in Ventura or Santa Barbara County, please give us a call at 805-477-0070. Or visit us on the web at ventura-dui.com. That's 805-477-0070 or ventura-dui.com.